Hey, Michelle. Michelle? Michelle, are you over there? Oh, man, she's got a sub today. Welcome to Across the Hall, a podcast sharing ELA strategies from one door away with your host, Cade Summers and Michelle Shelton. This is episode 3, CommonLit Craze, part 2. Hey guys, it's Cade, and my pedagogical partner is not with us today. Michelle is with her husband, who is currently in the hospital. The latest news has been good, so we hope for a continued recovery and that his spirits are raised by Michelle and the family being with him. Today we're going to continue our series on CommonLit, what we've called CommonLit Craze, with the interview that was originally scheduled for last week. But last week's episode ended up being a focus by Michelle and me on how to use CommonLit in the ELA classroom. If you missed that episode, you might want to go back and listen to that once you've listened to this one today. You also want to go to our show notes located at acrossthehallpodcast.com, where we've given you several links and several specific strategies to use commonlit.org in the ELA classroom. But for now, today we're going to be interviewing Anna Hodges. She is the Content Development Director at CommonLit. Welcome, Anna Hodges.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Anna, could you tell us, I know obviously you're with CommonLit, but what is it that you do at CommonLit?
Sure. I'm the Director of Content Development here at CommonLit, which means that I am in charge of collaborating with our Chief Product Officer and our tech team, as well as our outreach team, to make sure that all of our big goals and ideas for what we want to produce and make for teachers is all aligned. And on the content specific side, that means that I'm in charge of helping to brainstorm, visualize, get content up and off the ground and running for teachers. So that means anything from preparing assignments for teachers to preparing new features to launch for our website, preparing new ways for teachers to browse, the variety of content that we have on our platform, creating all of the new ideas for all of the new features and products that we will be launching, having my hand in that creative process.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. So one of the coolest things about CommonLit that I found is that it was created by teachers for teachers. I read a little bit about the founder, Michelle Brown. Is that correct?
Correct. Michelle is our CEO and founder. She started as a Teach for America teacher in the Mississippi Delta. And her first year there, as is the case with so many teachers across the country, she walked into a classroom that had very little resources, from actual physical resources such as chairs and desks to digital resources, to resources such as books, high quality text for kids to read, curriculum. And I've been in that situation as well, and so have many of the teachers, most of the teachers that work for us as content developers. We know as teachers how difficult and time consuming it is to find high quality resources, to build high quality curriculum, to ask high quality questions, and to really help kids who are on grade level, struggling, advanced alike, all in one classroom, really make gains in reading and writing. Without the correct tools, that is such a struggle for teachers and an even bigger struggle for students. And so Michelle was faced with that situation and decided that she needed to do something about it because education in our country is really urgent.
Yes, it definitely is. It sounds like she has kind of carried with her that CommonLit, because you guys are not a business, but a nonprofit, right? And so all of your resources, first thing that I noticed when I went to the site is that there was no, sign up, and under the sign up, a certain cost that would sort of limit a lot of teachers and the amount of funding they have. So it sounds like some of that was carried over with the whole idea of the program itself.
Definitely. We are a free digital resource and PDF resource for teachers. We will always be free for teachers and students. We never will ask teachers or students or parents for money. And that's our 100% forever and always promise. It's really important, as I said, that teachers have access to really high quality curricular materials for their students so that they can save the time and the money that they need to do other things really well with teachers. We really believe in providing these high quality resources so that we can free teachers time up to do other really meaningful things in the classroom, such as giving high quality feedback to student responses in writing, such as teaching skills, close reading, really digging deep into instruction. And so we feel that by providing such free and high quality resources to teachers, we take so much time off of their plate from the planning process and from the grading process to be able to really dive deeper with their students and see greater progress.
Yeah, as far as what you offer for teachers, it really, CommonLit touches on just about every content area I've noticed. What does CommonLit offer ELA teachers that could allow them to support their colleagues' instruction in science, math, social studies, and the arts?
Sure. So we are always, one of our big efforts is to build out a library of texts that is not only suitable for ELA teachers, but also can be used in subject areas outside of ELA. We have supported most outside of ELA social studies. We have some science content. We have some arts content. And then with regard to math, that's an area that we are still building out, and that's something that we are looking forward to building out over the next few years.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most difficult areas to touch on literacy skills is math. I've observed that, and we've talked about that in our own school district.
Yeah, definitely. And so, one way I think that ELA teachers can support their colleagues in other content areas within the ELA classroom is through some of the text sets that we've built out. So I know that you mentioned on your last episode the text sets that we have. We have many text sets that offer social studies teachers plenty of content to build background knowledge within one content area. So we have from ancient Egypt to modern democracy in America. And through these text sets, ELA teachers can help build content knowledge to support social studies classes. So for example, they could assign a text set, an entire text set to a class as kind of like a research base. They could support students' research reading, research writing skills by helping them synthesize ideas across a variety of texts on the same topic, such as modern democracy in America, for example, to support a social studies curriculum. ELA teachers can also support science teachers in the ELA classroom through our text sets. One of our text sets that we just released or just created is the science of the body, which is mostly lower level texts around how the body functions, what cells are, what genes are. And that's one great text set that ELA teachers could support through research writing, differentiation within the text set, differentiation of topics within a scientific text set to support the content of other classrooms. We also have news articles that get at some of the content that is being dealt with in other subject areas. So modern perspectives on scientific issues, on psychology, on the scientific method. We have lots of experiments. Social studies and science can be well supported in the ELA classroom, especially through like debates. If you want to think about creative ways to engage kids in the topics that they're studying in other classrooms, they could read one of our news articles about little plastic particles in the sea and relate that to a science topic that they're studying. Or they could debate whether or not we should fix the weather if they're studying the weather in their physical science classroom.
Those are great examples. It takes it's definitely higher order thinking to go through the process of debate, and that's something we're trying to teach our kids to do in ELA. So that would be a great way to utilize CommonLit in those other areas. So great ideas. One thing I started thinking a little bit about when you were talking about building background knowledge for a text And I thought I'd go ahead and ask you about this now. What I noticed just in the last week, and I don't know how I missed it, but that there's related, it says related media. And I don't know how many teachers spend how many hours on a regular basis trying to dig up YouTube videos, trying to scour the internet for various types of introductory and other types of related video and media to help them supplement what they're doing. Could you tell us a little bit about what the related media option does once a user clicks on a certain type of text?
Yes, absolutely. These features are related media and the paired text features, as well as some of our other digital features, are tools or features that we tag to every text, every assignment in our website. We know how important it is to help build student skill with regard to reading across genre and reading across texts. So that's the basis for us including related media for every text that we have. These related media are audio recordings of a text, or videos that provide background knowledge about a text, videos or audio or speeches that provide any kind of connection with regard to theme or philosophical theory or historical background, any kind of extension that a student might be able to get from a video or an audio file. They allow students to make connections across audio and text, video and text, or text and text. And so in all of our related media, we provide a blurb about how this video or audio clip is helpful, what it's about, a quick summary, how it relates to the text that kids have just read in their classrooms. And we also suggest some pairing prompts or questions that teachers could use when pairing this video or audio file or text to the text that they've just finished reading in class. So it's a really helpful way for kids to make connections across different genres and different media, and really synthesize ideas and synthesize their learning.
Okay, thanks for that. And you also there told us a little bit about how you guys help scaffold the planning for teachers as well, that you provide a lot of tools just for us to be able to know how to use that information and know how to use those media resources.
Yeah, it's really time consuming for teachers to go out and find video clips or audio clips that relate to the text that they've just read, in addition to then creating the questions that pair those two forms of media or those two texts together. And so we want to make sure that we are saving teachers as much time as possible to help them really dive into the analytical work of literature and reading texts and writing about them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm an information overload guy. So I go find one resource that I probably already had in mind what I'm looking for. And then all of a sudden I find 5, and then I find 10 and 20. And I have a hard time breaking that down and then passing that on to the students. So simplifying it with the most useful resources is fantastic. I love that feature.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure if you had a chance to take a look at some of the other features that we offer with each of our texts. I know that you talked about guided reading mode and the assessment questions, but we also offer discussion questions, which are just another great layer of questioning for students to be able to apply the text that they've just read and the ideas within the text to their own lives, other texts that they've read, other forms of media or experiences that they've had. It's kind of a more creative, fun way to engage with the text and the ideas within it. And I know that you talked about a teacher from your school or your district, Yvette,
mm-hmm. Yes.
who had a really exciting discussion about Plato's The Allegory of the Cave.
Yes.
It's a really student-centered discussion using some of our discussion tools. And so I think that it's always really helpful for teachers to see the different ways that they can approach a text with the tools that we offer. And discussion is just one of those ways. We also offer an accessibility toolbar, and I think that you guys talked about that last time. But
by accessibility toolbar, what are you referring to?
Sure. So on every text that we have, above the question section, there is a toolbar with a series of icons, and it allows students to look up a word in a dictionary.
Oh, yes. No, I did not talk about that. That's great. And yet, I'm sorry to interrupt you. That is fantastic. I'm glad you thought about that. I teach a couple. Actually, last year I had 3 inclusion classes. So with such a diverse spectrum of reading abilities, I needed to scaffold that. So this read aloud feature was really, really useful for my students. And I'm sorry, you go ahead and describe this. This is a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So dictionary tool here allows them to look up any word in a dictionary by double clicking on it and pressing the dictionary icon. We also allow them to read the text aloud through the read aloud feature. And this is a great feature. You can just highlight a chunk of text, or you can play from the very beginning of a text so that you can really support students who have struggles with fluency and students who are English language learners. Even for students who are reading a text that's slightly above their grade level, it's a great support for fluency, for just listening to the text being read aloud. We also offer the translation tool, which is a little world icon in that accessibility toolbar. It translates into 13 different languages, from Spanish to Mandarin to...
Looks like that. I'm in one text right now. Someone might be watching, and it looks like that particular feature. It may depend on the text, right? So this one says translate into Spanish, but I'm assuming there may be it's by text or all.
No, it's not by text. If you actually click in the toolbar settings, that icon all the way to the right, you can change the language. So Spanish, German, Haitian, Creole, Italian, Urdu, Vietnamese. You can change.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, that's
languages.
great.
And then you can change the speed of the voice, slow, medium, or fast. So for any text, for any student. We also have a highlighter tool that's great for our annotation tasks, which are at the top of every page in the gray box. That's what the student sees when a student comes to an assignment, a digital assignment, and even a PDF assignment. It's printed out for them. So the bold annotation task underneath that introduction tells students what they should be looking for upon a first read of the text. And our highlighting tool helps them identify those literary devices or those ideas that they can highlight and then come back to and reference while they're answering the assessment questions or while they're having a class discussion.
Okay, thanks. And is there a part of the website for anyone listening who might not have been able to get all of that? Is there a page of the website that gives you a breakdown of each of those tools, like what each one means?
If you hover over each icon above, it tells you what that icon stands for. Mm-hmm. So if you hover over the dictionary icon, it says look up word in dictionary, and the next one says read text aloud. So each of those just gives you a quick instruction.
Right. It should be kind of self-explanatory, in other words, right?
Sure. And then additionally, we'll be adding a help widget soon. So teachers will be able to type their questions into a help search bar, and their answers will pop up if they need any kind of additional help.
Okay. So one kind of popular text right now is Matt Miller's book, Ditch That Textbook. The idea of ridding ourselves or our classrooms, at least our dependence upon textbooks. Where does CommonLit kind of fit into that idea? How does CommonLit support general ed and special ed teachers in differentiating instruction and changing up or differentiating instruction for a specific group of kids?
Yeah, so I would say that I don't think there's anything inherently bad about the kinds of text that a textbook offers, or necessarily the kinds of questions a textbook asks, or maybe the kinds of activities they suggest. I think that what teachers and students need in general is a large degree of flexibility in what they're able to do within a classroom. Teachers need variety just as much as students need variety in the kinds of things that they're learning about and the ways in which they're learning about those things. And so CommonLit offers way more texts than a textbook could ever offer, and such a variety of texts. But in addition to that, we have such flexible tools that teachers can pick and choose what fits best for their classroom and what works best for their students. students. So if one day a teacher wants to do a close reading where a student is really looking for how an author's word choice develops the tone of a short story or the tone of an article, the teacher can give a lesson on tone and how word choice affects tone, do a close reading of a story where students highlight an author's word choice and have a discussion or answer a question in writing or both about how the word choice affects tone. And the next day, a teacher could come to our platform and use one of our paired texts that maybe doesn't get at the idea of word choice or tone, or maybe it does, but they can look for a text that pairs with one of the ideas within the text they just read. So maybe they want to continue to practice word choice and tone, or maybe they want to pick up a thematic connection and have kids read across texts for how two different short stories handle the idea of growing up and what themes each author is giving. Maybe they would then want to have a discussion using our discussion questions. Maybe the third day they want to provide an assessment around word choice and tone. And so they search our library using our standards filters and our literary device filters to find figurative language standards covered in our assessment questions and the literary devices of word choice and tone. And they want to provide an assessment to see how their kids are doing in both of those areas. They could even support their students in writing by using our short answer questions and providing really effective feedback through our grading platform and collect all of their student assessment data in one spot. So that was a very long answer, but
yeah, that's okay.
I think in general, with regards to CommonLit versus textbooks, we want teachers to have as much flexibility as possible with the kinds of content that they are using with students and the ways in which they are teaching their students this specific content.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that you hit on right there that I want to kind of branch out into. And one was assessment and the ways that teachers can assess. And the other was really questions. So if it's okay, let's go questions first, and then we'll talk a little bit about assessment tools for teachers. So how can teachers be sure that questions are grade level appropriate in terms of rigor and depth of knowledge? And what has CommonLit done to accomplish such a range of questions that are available?
Good question. So in terms of grade level appropriateness, we use standards to guide our assessment question writing. The text-dependent questions that we write are aligned to standards so that we can make sure that the skills that students are focusing on at that particular grade level are aligned to that particular grade level, and so that vertically, as students move up grades, they are experiencing different skills, different content, etc. We also have a wide variety of teacher expertise of people on the content team at CommonLit. And so everybody who is writing for us, who's creating questions, who's choosing our content, has a large base of knowledge about curricula across the United States as well as internationally. And so we use our deep literary expertise and knowledge of all of the different curricula that we've taught in our 10 years as experienced teachers to inform what could be grade level appropriate, what kind of knowledge teachers and schools and districts are expecting students to be learning at a particular grade level. And we make sure that we evaluate each text with regards to its complexity before we place it into a particular grade band. So what are the knowledge demands required of a student in order to read this text? What about the language demands of a student that are required? And is the vocabulary appropriate for this particular grade level?
Yeah, that's amazing. There's a lot of expertise that goes into all of that. I can tell that it sounds like everything is vetted, and it seems so appropriate for us when we go to a text and we have that grade level student working at a text that CommonLit says is at grade level. And we also get to see that, our boots on the ground, so to speak, and we infer that everything's just so well laid out for us. On the standard front, I just want to mention that I noticed this morning and I was actually going in. Why was I going in? I got an email that said that all of my old classes are being archived. and that I could opt out. Well, I opted out because I had already changed my classes for this year and kept the same and just deleted the old stuff. I didn't need to archive it. So I opted out. And when I opted out, I noticed that CommonLit not only caters to the standards of Common Core, which so many states have adopted, but I also noticed that, Florida, for example, you have the Florida standards also there. And so I like the fact that you guys tried to cater as well to the standards also of a large state like Florida.
And we know that not all states are signed on to one standard system. There are state standards as well. And we appreciate that. Most of us who work here are not from DC and didn't grow up being taught the Common Core state standards, and we certainly didn't use them our entire teaching career. So, I'm from Illinois. We have Michelle, who is from Texas, and we have our chief product officer, who is from Massachusetts, and we're from all over the place. So we understand that in addition to national standards, there are other standards out there that are really important to other states, and we'll be adding more state standards soon.
All right. So along the lines of assessment, what, if you don't mind, just kind of describe the assessment tools or the way that would look for teachers who go into the website. What is available for them to analyze the data of their students?
All of the assessment questions and all of the guiding questions from guided reading mode can be digitally assigned to students, and they are graded automatically by CommonLit. Then a teacher can receive all of the data from the guiding questions and the assessment questions in their teacher dashboard. They can see progress of students overall from a bird's eye view of all of their classes all at once. They can see progress just within one single class, and they can see progress within a single student and even within a single assignment. We only grade the guided reading questions and the assessment questions that are multiple choice. The short answer grading is left up to the teacher because we know that writing skills can't be graded automatically. You can't grade a student's writing digitally, at least not yet. We haven't figured things out yet with regard to grading writing automatically. But teachers oftentimes work on teaching one particular writing skill to students at a time. And so we want to make sure that they're giving students feedback for the writing that they've been teaching in class. So when a teacher goes to an assignment report, let's say a teacher assigned fish cheeks to their period 1 English class, and they go to an assignment report for that particular assignment, they can see how the class did on average. They can see the difference in proficiency or difference in scores between the multiple choice questions and the short answers. So what particular test taking skills are students struggling with. They can see a score breakdown of percentages where students are grouped, and then they can see who their highest performers and lowest performers are within that particular assignment in a class. They have the ability from there to really do some deeper item analysis. If they've assigned guided reading mode, they can expand that data by clicking on a plus sign, and it shows teachers how many attempts it took each individual student to answer each individual guided reading question, which gives teachers an understanding of where student understanding is breaking down on a first read of a text. So it's really great to then be able to group students and go back to a particular part of a text and do some reteaching or figure out what skill a student might be struggling with, or thinking about what text a teacher might need to assign that particular student or group of students the next time. And then even deeper into the assessment item analysis, we break down the data by question. We provide an overview of what that question was, as well as an opportunity for teachers to really dig deeply and look at what groups of students are struggling with which particular standards or which particular skills encased in those standards, as well as take a look at where student writing falls on the scale of proficiency.
Yeah, you mentioned the guided reading, and one of I get some really weird pleasure out of the fact that when my students begin a CommonLit reading, and I've selected, and maybe not across the room, they don't know that I've selected certain students to do the guided reading, but other students I don't think need to do the guided reading. they don't really have a conversation back and forth about that, but they'll call me over and say, Mr. Summers, something's wrong with this text. Why is it all blurry? I love that feature of the CommonLit articles because it does push my students to think upon a short part of the text to know whether it's a vocabulary question or some general plot related question or whatever. It pushes them to think and analyze that short text because for some students, that short text is a long text. It's something for them to have to wrestle with and grapple with. And so I always love that frustration that begins with, why is this all foggy? How come I can't read it? And something I didn't know, you just mentioned, was that a teacher can go back and see how many times they tried to answer that question. And so, that really does help the teacher to know where the rubber hits the road. Is this student just clicking, or is this student really putting forth their best effort in answering this question and analyzing this text? So I just learned something too, but I love that feature.
Yeah, I love guided reading mode as well. It's one of the features that we've launched over within the past 7-8 months. So it's new-ish, but it is one of our most powerful features for differentiation. We all have students who struggle with particular texts and with particular skills. We all have students who need to slow down in their reading of the text. We have students who need to learn how to chunk a text into sections. And so guided reading mode is great for all of those things, for helping students through the first reading of a text slow down, chunk a text into sections, and really think about what they just read with a low level amount of synthesis in the questions. These are really different from our assessment questions in that they're pretty surface level questions, not who and what, but what's the general idea of this chunk of text that you just read.
Okay. Well, we're going to wind down with just a couple questions then, thinking one about those teachers who might have heard of CommonLit or might not have, sort of like last week I had mentioned going to a pre-AP training conference, and a lot of the teachers who are at one-to-one schools didn't even know about it, which blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. So I got out my laptop during the coffee breaks and started, showing it to people, and they're like, what in the world? First, I want to talk about, that new environment for teachers. And then secondly, we're going to talk about some future goals for CommonLit, what's in the works. I heard this podcast, so I'm going to go check this out. What's going to be something that I'm going to be most impressed with immediately?
Sure. Teachers are usually most impressed with the variety of texts and the quality of texts that we offer. We have so many different genres. We have news articles, poems, short stories, historical documents, excerpts of classic literature, information, literary, alike, about an even spread of each. And teachers get really excited about just the variety and the quantity of really high quality, authentic texts that they usually are able to recognize much of. So the vast digital library that we have is awesome. We offer teachers the ability to filter our library and browse our library in a variety of different ways. And I think that that's something that really speaks to teachers. Teachers have different purposes for teaching, and some of them are doing novel units and want supplemental materials. Some of them are teaching research writing and want text sets that they can teach research writing from. Some of them are looking to highlight a specific skill or a specific literary device, and they want to find a mentor text that they can use to teach that device or that skill. And so our browse and filter features offer so many different options for teachers to really meet and match the purposes of their lessons. And then additionally, teachers get really excited about our tools, our features that align with each of our lessons, our related media and our paired texts, along with the questions that we include for each of those resources, as well as the guided reading mode and the accessibility toolbar. Teachers rave about all of those features as being so supportive to their student needs and their needs as teachers for their own purposes and their own curricula.
All right. I know I said we had two more, but there was something that you had mentioned at the outset of the interview, and I wanted to ask you about, because again, it's one of those areas of the site that I had not noticed until just recently in the last week or so. And it is the parent tools. What does it say? Parent guide. And what I had assumed was there before ever clicking on it I assumed it would be the same thing across the board, like a general statement of we want parents to be involved and this is what CommonLit is. I just thought it was just this generic thing that would exist to let parents know what the site is. And then lo and behold, I'm within a text and I click on that and I find out that this is to get parents involved with individual texts, possibly if CommonLit is used as a homework assignment or whatever, that this is used for individual texts. Could you tell us a little bit about the parent guide and I guess why that's so amazing?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's always important to have parents involved in student learning. It's great for students and children to have their parents involved, and it's great for teachers to have the supportive parents at home. And so we want to make sure that teachers and parents can access the texts that students are working with in class. They can ask them questions that relate to those specific texts, and they can help support their understanding of these texts in other ways, such as through the related media that we offer to each of our texts. So we always provide parents with some questions about the general ideas of the text, as well as the themes that those texts relate to. So if a student is reading about Mother Teresa in class, how did this text relate to the ideas of honor and courage? How did this text relate to the ideas of social change and revolution? And then we give them some suggestions of related media that they can watch with their children at home to support their understanding of that specific text.
Yeah. First of all, two things I think about from the standpoint of a teacher. I know the only way that my students' parents are going to learn about this is through direct communication. So if that teacher uses Remind with parents or sends emails to parents or whatever, this is something that a teacher needs to do, whether it's the syllabus, somehow making sure parents know that when CommonLit texts are assigned, they have this option. That would be one of the most frustrating things as a teacher is if I don't communicate that to parents. Here is such an incredibly useful tool to get students more motivated, to get the most performance out of my students. And if I don't communicate with parents, they're not getting that. So I need to tell them about this tool available for them to have discussions. And it is amazing. So listeners need to check that out. Click on any text in CommonLit, and at the top right will be Parent Guide next to Teacher Guide, and look at what they've provided there. Was there anything else that you might want to add as far as pertaining to parents?
No, I think that everything that you said is completely on point. It's really important that teachers have the ability to share these assignments with parents via email, their teacher website, their Google Classroom, printing it out and giving students the parent handouts to bring home. Whatever method at this point works best for them.
Yeah. And then the other part was I'm a dad too, and I've got 3 boys. And while I do totally trust the teacher, and I totally trust our school district, and I totally trust our education system, there's still the dad side of me that likes to know, hey, what are they teaching my kids? What texts are they letting my kid read? I like to know what's going on so that I can help supplement that at home and encourage that with our own family values in conjunction with the types of texts and the types of things they're learning. And so as a parent, it's also really useful for me to know and appreciate that a provider of text to my child in my child's classroom took it upon themselves to get me involved. And I think from the parent side that a parent should be very appreciative for CommonLit thinking about that, because clearly, that's not something that CommonLit has to do, but it's a good opportunity that you guys are seizing to make family stronger and combine that with a child's academic growth. I think that's pretty neat.
Thanks. We think it's pretty neat too. Yeah. Some of the features I had mentioned sharing via Google Classroom, and I wanted to mention that Google Classroom integration is actually something that we are currently working on. And so look forward to that coming up in the next few months or so. We currently have the ability for teachers to import their Google Classrooms into CommonLit. And so that's really exciting for us and really exciting for a lot of teachers. And something else that we have just added the ability for teachers to do is to download and print data, to download to a CSV file or print data. It comes out looking real nice. And so we just wanted to make sure that we were creating better assignment reports and the ability for teachers to really view data and share data in a meaningful and visually pleasing way.
All right, you've already hit on some of those future goals and what you're working on. Is there anything else that CommonLit's working toward?
We are building out a unit builder, and we will be releasing some mini unit guides in the next few weeks. These are assignments that are linked together by an essential question, a topic, a time period, an author, a variety of different ways that we link these assignments and texts together. They're sequenced in an order that makes sense for pairing texts together and for allowing students to synthesize information and knowledge across texts and across a theme or essential question. In addition, we are offering graphic organizers and writing prompts, final assessments, and some other exciting features that I won't share just yet, but look forward to those in the next 2 weeks.
All right, great. So how would we find out about those, the ones that you're not wanting to share with us or not able to? How would we first find out about those? Is there going to be like a media release?
Yeah, so we're going to, everyone who's signed up for our newsletter, and if you're not yet, please do. You can sign up on our homepage by clicking Join Newsletter. We are going to send out a newsletter as soon as that feature is released, and then we'll also add it to our blog, as well as put it all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, etc.
Okay, so sign up for the email newsletter and look for it on all social media. And as soon as we find out that too, we'll be sharing it and passing that along for you guys as well.
Yes, we're really, really, really excited about these.
Well, thanks a lot, Anna, for being with us today. I appreciate the time that you've given and allowing us to interview you.
Thanks so much for having me on. This was really, really fun. I hope that I can do it again sometime.
Thanks again to Anna for this interview. It was fantastic. She revealed so much information about the website that most people browsing it for the first time, second time, or if you were like me, the 100th time, you still didn't know about. There's so much there for you. Go ahead now and go to the commonlit.org website, create your classes for the school year, because I know, teachers, you've already been assigned your classes for the year and you know what periods they are. Go ahead and create your courses there so that that's one less thing to do once the school year gets started. Get familiar with the website so that you can begin to integrate that into your existing curriculum, and definitely make CommonLit a part of not only your at-school activity, but also the at-home activity. So if you've already created the syllabus for this year, make sure you go back and edit it to include information about CommonLit, and more specifically, include information about how periodically, when students are assigned CommonLit materials, you would like to have parents' involvement at home to support what students are learning thematically, textually, and so on by clicking on that parent guide with respective texts. All right, well, I guess it's that time. Thanks so much for listening to Episode 3, CommonLit Craze Part 2. Don't forget to check out our show notes at acrossthehallpodcast.com. When finished listening today, find us on Twitter at acrossthehall, where the O in across is a 0. You can also join the conversation on Twitter at #XTheHall, share your struggles at #TheStruggleXTheHall, and take a few minutes to leave us a review on iTunes. See you next time.